This is the saltwater estuary tackle club box for November. Alright, so we've got a great mixture of both big and small baits for you this month. But let's start off with top water, always my favorite. So this month we've got the Storm Gamoku popper. This is a tiny little 4 centimeter, 3 gram popper. It's gonna be absolutely dynamite for both your brim or your whiting, or even your off catch of trevally and flathead as well. But with a little big cut face on this thing, it's going to be great for working nice and slow near oyster racks, your rock walls, your pontoons, or if you're chasing whiting, work it a bit faster. Let's split this up. So brim, find yourself some structure where the brim is schooling up, work it slow, pop, 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 lots of pauses. Now whiting, over the sand flat or where the whiting is schooling up looking for food in the sand, you're going to put a long cast out. Pop, 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 work it a lot quicker. Not too fast though, but a fairly fast retrieve. Once you see some whiting or even just a singular whiting come up after it, work it faster. Pop, 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 speed it up, speed it up, speed it up, because then often this can just cause a feeding frenzy with whiting. One will chase after it, another whiting sees him chasing after it and he jumps in. He wants in this party as well. Next moment you've got 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 whiting smacking each other around, chasing this thing down, trying to hit it. So work it fairly quick. This thing is also great for trevally, so if you're just fishing along, plodding along, you get some trevally busting up, pop a long cast out, and then 1, 2, 3, pop, 1, 2, 3, pop, 1, 2, 3, pop, and just work it as quick as you can, kind of like you're chasing tuna, but in shallower water. While we're on the theme of brim and whiting, I'm going to jump over to the Damiki Disco 40. This thing is a little chubby, shallow diving lure. With this one here, the way I like to fish it, or where I fish, I'm gonna look for the high tide, where the water's coming up over those flats. Pop a long cast out, and just a slow roll, really slow. This will just be a little bait fish that the brim can chew on, just swimming along over shallow water. You can be as shallow as a foot, whatever depth your boat or your kite can get you into, but you wanna get onto the sandbanks where water isn't normally at low tide. So wait for high tide to come up over these sandbanks and start casting long casts out and then slow rolls back again. It can be a dynamite way to find your brim. Now if you're chasing big flathead at the moment, we've got 3 different options here for you. Let's start off with the glide bait or the swim bait in the box, the Pontoon 21 Denzante J. So this is a singular joint swim bait or glide bait. And essentially you're going to use this to mimic maybe a big herring, a big whiting, and same deal. You're going to be looking where the water's come up in the high tide, covering these sandy banks where the water normally isn't, because the flathead often follow this water up and sit on these shallows waiting for whiting that you're chasing with your popper to come along so they can have a munch on them. Now if that tide starts to go back out and starts to fall again, you're going to look for your gutters and where your gutters are running out, because then the flathead are going to retreat back off those shallows and sit on the edge of the gutters, essentially feeding on anything that's just getting washed off. That's a prime place to chuck your swim bait or one of the next options. So you've got two plastic options here, both paddle tail. One weedless, one not yet rigged, which you can just chuck on your preferred weight and size jig head on. So let's start off with the Zesta Shadster plastic. So these are a big ribbed plastic with a big paddle tail on the back. These are going to be dynamite for flathead. I'm going to cast it out with probably a 1/4 to 3/8 ounce jig head, so a fairly heavy one, because I want this to be smacking on the bottom and just stirring up a lot of sand and just making a mess down there. Now I'm going to go rip off the bottom, pause, let it sink back down, rip, and just keep doing that. So you're literally working the bottom of the water column where these big flathead are. Now if you're fishing places that maybe hold mangrove jack or barramundi as well in your estuaries, both plastics will be great. But essentially I'm gonna have the zesters rigged up with a standard jig head, and then I'm gonna use the next bait, the Storm 360 GT Coastals, as my structure plastic, because these are pre-rigged with a weedless hook on them and a 19 gram head. So a fairly heavy head, but that's going to allow you to fish these really quickly. So if you've got pontoons or trees or anything that are around, line yourself up next to it, long cast in, let it sink for maybe like half a second or a second, maybe 2 seconds max. But you want to work this quick. That's a heavy head. So the head's going to do most of the work of keeping this deep enough, and you're going to work it back fairly quick. That paddle tail is going to be going nuts on it, but you're looking for a reaction bite with this one. Quick retrieve with the heavy head, weedless jig head means you don't have to worry too much about snagging up, but cast out, quick retrieve back, cast out, quick retrieve back. You can cover a lot of ground doing this. But that's it for your Tackle Club saltwater estuary box this month. If you want to check this one out or any of the other boxes in the range, just head to www.tackleclub.com.au, pick a box that's right for you, and welcome to the club.